Welcome to A Shock in the Dark. I'm the narrator on a road trip around the United States, following your stories wherever they may take me. And this week, I am in Odessa. Yeah. Starting a trek across the great state of Texas. Man, I'm looking forward to some dry rub barbecue, I'll tell you what. But in the meantime, tonight, we'll find out how the turn of a card may have helped one man in a very real and practical way. Here's tonight's letter. Hi, my name for the purpose of the story anyway is Bill. It seems that everybody who writes to you says they are either a sensitive or a skeptic. I'm neither one of those. I do believe that ghosts are something science hasn't figured out yet. I believe that mathematically it makes sense that aliens exist. Now, I don't know if they visit Earth. That's a different question. And Bigfoot? I don't know. Who am I to say? I don't know. All that being said, I used to think psychics were a sham. But I had always left the door cracked open a little bit that maybe they could be real, but probably not. Psychics were totally my girlfriend's thing. I swear she buys another crystal every single day. In that respect, luckily, we don't live together. She lives in a place called Kermit, Texas, and I live about an hour away in Odessa, Texas, where I've worked for the same company, based out of state, for just over 20 years. Then, around 2015, while traveling out of state to my company's home office in New York, I actually met a very famous TV psychic. It was in the grocery store, of all places, when this psychic approached me and said, "I'm sorry for bothering you, but my name is blank, and I'm a psychic medium, and I'm picking up someone around you whose name starts with an M, like it's a father figure, maybe a grandfather." And I'm thinking I honestly couldn't figure one single person in my entire life, living or dead, whose name started with M. The psychic continued. I think maybe it's a grandfather, maybe it's a great-grandfather. They had an alcohol problem. Now, I come from a family of non-drinkers. I mean, nobody on my mom or dad's side of the family drinks at all. So there was another swing and a miss. To make a long story short, this famous psychic kept guessing and missing anything even close to being true about me and my life until they finally just walked away in frustration. Even though I had the smallest open mind about psychics, that sealed the deal for me. I knew right then that psychics were people who just made guesses and went fishing for anything to connect to. Fast forward to 2018. I've been dating my girlfriend for about 5 or 6 years at this point. She's a believer, to say the least. Her apartment is filled with crystals and incense and books about spirit guides and stuff. And even though she knew about my experience with famous psychic and that I'd shut the door on any belief in that, she did talk me into going to see her psychic for a tarot card reading. I mean, her psychic was special and real and lived less than half an hour away from a famous tourist spot here in town, which is basically just a giant crater in the earth. And even though the tarot cards were another thing I was not convinced in, love will make you do a lot of crazy things outside of your comfort zone, so I agreed. My girlfriend met me at my place, and we drive out to an RV park right at the Odessa crater exit off Interstate 20, and I'm thinking, if you can tell the future, why do you live in an RV instead of a mansion? But we end up going into one RV that looked like it had parked there in the 70s and never moved since. Now, this was not one of your larger, nicer rigs, and inside was clean but very cluttered. Just, stuff everywhere. It's there that we met the psychic, Miss Sally. Not her real name, but it's close. She took a look at me and she said, "Oh, I'm gonna really be able to help out you You have somebody with you who's already trying to give me a message. Very anxious, this person. Miss Sally sometimes phrased her sentences in such a way that sounded like Yoda. You know, the way he talks. Come, come, she said, and she guided me to sit at the table across from her. My girlfriend was so excited. I was meeting her very real psychic. She looked like she was going to explode with anticipation. Oh, you have a money issue. That's what your friend here is trying to tell me. No. Even though my clothing choices might tell you otherwise, this New York-based company I worked for nearly all my life paid me very well, so even though I actually managed to get myself into a great deal of debt that I would never be able to pay off, I chalked this up to her reading my clothes more than my future. But I didn't want to give Miss Sally any information. She's a psychic, right? She's supposed to tell me the future. I'm not supposed to tell her anything, so I just gave her a non-committal okay. Your friend you brought with you, your spirit friend, he is a very smart man. He knows business. He says there is a clear answer for your problem. It is in front of your face the whole time. He's fading. He has used all of his energy to give me this message. I know it is important. Well, who is this guy? Oh, he's very suave, was in the army, black glasses, small mustache, very good at business he is. Wears a cloth hat like paperboy hat. I actually immediately knew exactly who she was talking about. She had to be talking about Uncle David. He had passed away when I was around 10 years old, but he ran a very successful business. He did wear black glasses, and I always remember him wearing that herringbone Irish tweed newsboy cap. Miss Sally, right on cue, said, "He is your cousin?" No, father, brother. Uncle, he's an uncle. And I was thinking, is this something she could have looked up on Facebook? Miss Sally then produced a deck of tarot cards. Actually, it was 2 decks, 2 different kinds of tarot cards. For you, only 3. 3 cards you get today. And she began to shuffle them. As she shuffled, every once in a while, one of the cards would just kind of fly out of the deck and land on the table face down. Not a magical kind of flying thing, but, it was impressive shuffling. Like you would see a poker pro do or something, maybe a magician. When she was done, there were 3 cards side by side, face down on the table. She turned over the first card. The Emperor card. Ah, this is authority figure in your life, businessman. Is it my uncle? No, this man is authority figure, business. He is wolf in cheap clothing. Wait, you mean a wolf in sheep's clothing, I think. No, he thinks he is fancy man, but bad news for him, he is rip-off. Greedy man, cheap clothes. A man can wear fancy rings on all his fingers, but if he is an empty vessel, he is worthless, no soul. Beware the Emperor. The next card flips. Miss Sally says, "This is the Justice card. This is good. This card says all shall be rewarded for their actions, good and bad. This is the law of man and the law of the universe. You are a good man, the law is on your side. Work hard, be free, get paid. See how this card is upside down? It is reverse. Somebody not following the law. Reap what you sow, bad person. Go to jail, lose money, lose job." You can say karma. She flips card 3 over and just giggles with delight. 10 Pentacles, so good. Good fortune for you, security, happiness, content, peace, all for you, under your nose, as your friend says, You only need to reach out and take it. Then she just sat there looking at me. Am I done then? No! You tell me when you are done. Your friend you brought you with says help is under your nose. The cards had given you the answers. All you need to do is reach out and take it. I thanked Miss Sally and said, well, I guess I'm done. While she was putting away her cards, I was just about to whisper to my girlfriend to ask how much money I should give her when Miss Sally, right on time, spoke up again from across the room. You give me nothing. You reach out, you take your treasure. Then you feel like I've been of service. I will not refuse a thank you gift. Okay, so we left. The car ride back to my place with my girl was kind of awkward. I thought Miss Sally had given me a bunch of stuff that, while not completely generic, was vague enough to where it could basically apply to anybody, but she did get a lot of stuff about my Uncle David right, and she didn't charge me anything, so while my girlfriend was convinced it would all make sense in the end, I was kind of torn. I went to sleep that night still unconvinced, still torn, but when I woke up the next morning, I decided that, well, if there's anything to this at all, I wanted that treasure, the solution to all my problems, so I had better reach out. And the first thing I did was I looked on Facebook just to see if any of my family members had ever posted anything about Uncle David. I wanted to make sure that this woman just hadn't, gone on Facebook and dug up some information to make me feel like she was real. I did manage to find one post from my aunt from a long time ago, but it really didn't mention anything about what Uncle David did for a living or his military service, so that was interesting, and it gave me a little bit of confidence to move on. I took my phone out and started writing down everything I could remember from the session. Every sentence, every word I could remember, I just put it in my phone. Law. Anything to do with the law. God, the only thing I can think of that could have anything to do with the law and me is I had a jury summons a few months ago, but I didn't end up having to serve. I had a car accident when I was 18. That went to court, but that wasn't anything, and it was settled a long time ago. And the only other thing I could think of related to legal stuff was my contract, my work contract, but I'd been working for the same company for 20 years, and they would send out a new contract every couple of years, but it was always exactly the same. It was barely 6 pages, and mostly it just said I couldn't tell any company secrets, and I couldn't work for a competitor. In exchange, I would get so much money per year in vacation time, insurance, other benefits. And of course, I'd been paid for all of that. All seemed very straightforward. I barely used vacation ever. I got paid the same amount every 2 weeks. So what's next? The Emperor card? Okay. Started thinking about authority figures, police, government, bosses. But then I remembered. It's an authority figure. Who is a wolf in cheap clothing? Rich guy with rings? No soul? I knew exactly who that was. It was so obvious. I mean, this had to be one specific boss of mine. One of the guys I worked for, actually the supervisor to my supervisor, literally wore like 8 rings on his fingers. He was this guy from New York City who had slick back hair down to his shoulders, popped his collar up on his shirt, always had the top 2 buttons of his shirt unbuttoned, just enough so a tuft of chest hair stuck out. Business shoes with no socks. You know the type of person I'm talking about, right? Kind of a pretentious jerk. Well, this guy was absolutely an ass in cheap clothing, if nothing else. So, if all of these were pieces of the puzzle, how did they fit together? My work contract, my one bad boss equals treasure? I don't know. I decided to read through my contract again, word for word, and really ponder each sentence. It was all the usual legal mumbo jumbo, party of the first part shall not. Why are all these contracts written by Shakespeare anyway? So normal people can't understand them? Probably. Blah, 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 salary, blah, 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 insurance. And then I get to one section, the section regarding vacation time. As I mentioned, I never took vacation. I had so much work to do on a daily basis, and I never finished it all. And if I took vacation, the company didn't have anybody to fill in for me. In other words, if I actually wanted to take off for a week, in theory, I would have to do 2 weeks of work within 1 week before I left. Nobody was trained to do what I do. Not even my bosses know how to do what I do, so nobody could cover for me. So, aside from the occasional long weekend, I just never take time off. And the cherry on top? My company has a use it or lose it policy on vacation, so any unused vacation time you have at the end of the year, it just poof, evaporates, disappears. Here's the portion of my contract that stood out to me, which I was having a hard time comprehending, so I really ended up reading it several times and then read it out loud. And I don't know, maybe the smarter people out there will understand this immediately. All earned vacation leave shall be forfeited at the end of each fiscal year with the following exceptions. 1. The employee was denied vacation by the employer, or 2. The employee is on an approved leave of absence, or 3. The location of the employee's regular place of work, if outside the corporate facilities, and if the location of where work is completed on a daily basis during the normal course of business is more than 50% of the average workday annually, is governed by federal, non-New York State jurisdiction. 4. If the employee elects in writing to carry over up to 2 such vacation days for use individually or consecutively during the next vacation year, provided that notice of such election shall be given to... Oh, come on. It's just so much. It goes on and on forever. And I'm sure anybody with any kind of legal knowledge already sees what the issue is here. Not me. I had to think about it for a long time before I really understood it. Basically, it says, if I don't work in New York, I can keep my vacation time, which by now, working for them for over 20 years had to be a lot. I jumped up and I sent scrambling over to a calculator. In the excitement, I kind of forgot that everybody nowadays keeps a total computer in their pocket at all times. But anyway, I added it all up. I'll only slightly change the numbers just a little bit as to not completely give myself away in case any of my bosses happen across this. But in the end, I figured I had amassed 4,200 vacation hours. Now, there are about 260 working days in a year. My 4,200 vacation hours is equal to 525 days of vacation time. I have almost the exact amount of time needed to take vacation for 2 full years. I could not show up to work for 2 full years and still get paid. As I mentioned, I do get paid quite handsomely, especially for living in Odessa. I did obviously call our HR department immediately, and they wanted to settle, but ultimately they gave me 3 choices to make it whole. 1, keep getting paid for 2 years after I leave the company. 2, receive a lump sum of money equal to 2 years' salary, which is a 6-figure number after taxes. After taxes! Or 3, make double my salary for the next 2 years. I took option 3, and just last year, at the end of 2021, I retired. I retired way younger than anybody I know. And look, I'm not rich, but I married that crystal-loving girlfriend of mine and bought a small but very nice house, and Now that all the travel restrictions are over, the two of us are taking a very long and well-deserved vacation. We're going to be doing what you're doing, traveling across the country, except for us. We're doing Route 66 on my motorcycle. And to be sure, I most definitely took care of Miss Sally. I gave her what I think was a generous, tax-free donation, which she used to get herself a nicer motorhome. And in my opinion, she deserves it. To be honest, I don't know if tarot cards can really help people in such a very direct and valid way like that, or, if it's coincidence or God, but all I can tell you is this one time, in a little RV park just off the interstate somewhere in Texas, near a giant hole in the ground, this one time, it led me to a real miracle. A miracle I never would have discovered otherwise. Me and my wife love your show. We'll be listening while we get our kicks on Route 66. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill. That's awesome. I love to hear that. I'm glad that worked out for you so well. And the Shock in the Dark tour of the United States continues wherever your letters lead me on my journey. Next week, I head to parts unknown. Oh, wait, actually, I do know where I'm going next. In the morning, I'm just traveling like half an hour just down the road to a little group of cabins in Midland, Texas. In the middle of a field. Apparently, it's a haunted cabin. I mean, I love telling the stories, but I'm no ghost hunter. I will admit, I don't like staying at places where creepy stuff happens. But, this is what I do now, apparently, so. To support this channel and maybe keep me alive for a little while longer, please do at least one of the following. Just, hit the thumbs up button, make a comment, any comment whatsoever in the comment section, or subscribe, or, support me in any kind of little way like that. In the meantime, this is the narrator saying good night wherever and whoever you are. All earned vacation leave shall be forfeited at the end of each fiscal year with the following exceptions. 1. The employee was denied vacation by the employer, or 2. The employee is on an approved leave of absence, or 3. The location of the